Hello everyone, Miss Fleming here. I want to start off by saying I miss you all a lot and I can't wait to see you again in person. But for right now, I hope you're staying safe and warm and you are taking advantage of this time at home to practice as much as you can. This is going to be a video for the second clarinet part on Ashlon Echoes. If you're not playing second part, I advise that you look for the correct link because I should have a video up for the first part as well. And with that, second clarinets, let's begin. We're going to start at the beginning, and I really want you to focus on the rhythms here. So we've talked about this in class, and I believe we've talked a little bit about it maybe in sectionals. There's a funky rhythm in here with 16ths and 8ths, and it's actually different in measure 2 as it is in measure 4, so we need to pay special attention to which one we're using where. If you go ahead and look at measure 2 with me, I'm going to count it for you. This is how you should be counting it at home. 1, te, ta, 2, te, 3, te, 4, 1. Rest, rest, rest. 1, 2, te, 3, 4, ti, te, 1. So notice how in measure 2, the rhythm is 1, te, ta, and that means the 16ths are in the second half of the beat. And then in measure 4, it's 4, ti, te. So the 16ths are at the front of the beat. So there is a difference, and you can either clap it, play it on a concert F, but there's a difference between 1, te, ta, 2, and 4, ti, te, 1. I'm going to go ahead and play it for you, and I'd like you to listen and then practice this on your own a little bit. Two, 3, 4. And remember, we've also talked about this in sectionals, and I'm sure of it. We are on the second part, which means we're playing lower than the first, which means we need to play so much louder. They need to be able to hear us. We're the support system. We are the foundation, and it starts at forte. They also have forte in their parts. So they're naturally going to sound quite a bit louder than we do, which means we really need to play loud. And it's fun to play loud when we're this low. Looking at the trill, we're just going to use the A trill, so it's just A. When you do that, I want you to keep your right hand down. Anytime you have a G or an A in this piece, keep your right hand down. I'll play that again. So try that a few times on your own, and then we're going to look at the next section together. All right, moving on to the next section. So the next part is at 13, measure 13, and it says lively. We're actually going to start counting in measure 14, so we don't have to wait through those awkward rests. And if you look at the rhythm in measure 14, it's the same as measure 16. And then if you look at the second page, we actually get that rhythm again at 46 and 48. So learning this rhythm is going to be very helpful for the piece because we get to play it more than once. And I would just like to count it for you. I want you to listen, and then I want you to try it a few times on your own with your metronome. It should sound like 1, 2, te, te, 4, te, 1. Notice how beat 3, we don't say 3 because we're not changing notes on the beat. We're changing it on the te of 3. So when you're singing this along or counting this along with your metronome, we're not saying beat 3. You have to make sure that it's the te. I'll play it on the correct notes just so you can hear what it's supposed to sound like. And you can play this faster or slower. I want you to play it at a tempo that you're comfortable with because that's the most important thing. And just make sure that you're not lining up on beat 3 with your metronome because we don't change notes there. Let me play it again for you. So that rhythm appears a few times. Just go ahead and practice that with your met. Then we'll move on to the next section after you get a few reps of that. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and skip ahead to measure 29. If you notice, this section looks very different from the beginning of Ashlon Echoes. At the beginning, we have a lot of style markings like accent marks, different articulations such as staccato notes and trills and stuff like that. But down here at 29, we see a lot of white notes, so we're holding them longer. we see a lot of slurs, and we see a lot of dynamic changes. So if you look right on 29, we start at a mezzo piano, we crescendo all the way to a forte, and then we repeat that. Even when the notes change, we still have that crescendo through the phrase. This is really important because this is a lyrical section, so we want to sing through our instrument. And to sing through our instrument, we really need to blow the air fast and continuously. And it'll help to blow through the phrase if you're following the dynamics. Let me go ahead and play for you at 29. So you want the dynamic contrast between mezzo forte, which is soft, but not too soft, and forte to be incredible. We need to hear a difference there. Especially, like I said earlier, you're on the second part, so you're playing lower than the other, and you really want to support your friends up there. They're not going to sound good if you don't. So we need lots of air. We need it strong on the fortes. We really want to sing through our instruments to make sure that it's as smooth as possible. Notice how I also did not take any breaths in the middle of a slur. We have those handy little quarter rests in there between each phrase. So really tank up there. We don't want a shallow breath like we want deep. We want to fill our lungs as much as we can so we can push all the way through, especially when we get to the last phrase that goes into 37, because instead of 2 bars of slur, that's almost 4 whole bars of slurring. So we really need to make sure that we have enough air for that. So tank up. The next section that's really important to look at, we have discussed the rhythm at 46. So I'd like to look at that again. It's always good to practice this as much as possible. So if you need another go at it, go ahead and turn on your metronome and count. I'm going to count it again just so you can remember what it sounds like. It should be, this is at measure 46. 1, 2, te, forte, 1. 1, 2, te, forte, 1. So remember, we're not changing on beat 3, we're changing on the te of beat 3. Let me go ahead and play it on the right note for you. And if you look at measure 47, this goes for all whole notes or all really long notes, especially with the accents. You want to play the bold accent at the beginning, and then we want to back away because there might be a moving part there. You want to make sure that you get out of the way for those parts to play through you. And then you are important whenever you have the eighth notes and quarter notes. And again, this is at a forte, so we want to really bring that out for the audience to hear. So go ahead and count that rhythm with your metronome, play it on a concert F, and then play it on the correct notes. All right, moving on from measure 45, we're going to look ahead at measure 57. So this is slow and mysterious, and it's very similar to the section that we had earlier that I said was lyrical. We've got a lot of slurs. We have a lot of dynamic changes. If you look at the beginning of this, we start at a mezzo piano, so we need to make sure that we get out of the way and we start quiet enough, and that we really crescendo through those hairpins. And we have some pretty low notes. We go all the way down to a low A, and again, low notes are very important because you have such a long instrument to blow through. So whenever we go lower, we need faster air, more air. We need to play louder so it comes out through all of the other parts. Let me go ahead and start at 57 for you. So I stopped at 65 if you were following along in your part. I want you to make sure that you play with great dynamics, starting in a mezzo piano and crescendoing and coming back. that you play the low notes louder. And if you notice in measure 63, we have a B flat. And in measure 64, we have a G sharp. And I hope you guys remember what I said in our sectional a few weeks ago. If you have an accidental, it is so important, so you have to bring it out. So that B flat, even though it's at the beginning of the crescendo, I really want you to dig into it because that's an important note in this part. Same with the G sharp. Even though it's at the end of a day crescendo, you really want to make sure that that sticks out because that is an interesting note. So go ahead and try that on your own. Make sure that you are playing with lots of air, full air, correct dynamics, and bringing those notes out. All right, so lastly, this is the last part, I promise. We're gonna look at the coda. So remember at the end of the piece, there's a DSL coda, which means go back to the squiggly little S sign in the part on the first page, and you play all the way to the sign that says to coda, and then to coda means drop down to the coda, which is the last three lines, at the bottom of the second page. And this is kind of back to the original style. It's a fanfare-esque. So there should be a lot of strong sounds. 74 is a fortissimo, which means play so loud. You have to play even louder than forte. And again, you're the lower part, so that means play extra loud, even louder than fortissimo. And we want to play it in the correct style, with a lot of space, a lot of bounce. It should sound happy, not heavy. I'm going to go ahead and start in measure 73 and just play through the coda for you. So make sure that when you trill, you are doing the A key. We don't want to hit any side keys. You should really start that trill a little bit quieter so that there's a lot of room for growth. I know it says subito mezzo forte crescendo, which means drop down to mezzo forte, but I think we can do it just a little bit more extreme, maybe between a mezzo piano and a mezzo forte, and then really dig into that crescendo so when you hit the G, it's solid and it's kind of a surprise for the audience. Yeah. I hope you have fun practicing this piece, and I'm really excited to hear it again.